Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to this week's Mental Monday. I kind of want to jump in and do another video on a disorder or a diagnosis. And I know if you watch my Mental Monday videos, you might not necessarily watch all of my other videos. Maybe you just like the mental health ones, but I have talked about something connected to this in my Turner syndrome videos, and that is the idea of a spectrum. And today I want to talk about the autism spectrum. I talked about Turner syndrome as a spectrum and kind of connected it to autism in that there's such a varying degree of severity and cases and ways it presents as far as what people struggle with. And I do feel like it's just like that, where it's a spectrum, and I feel like both are super similar in that way. But today I wanted to give a little more information on what autism is. Autism is something that has, I feel like, been getting a ton of attention lately, just to kind of make more information known, make it better understood, and kind of, it has definitely, I feel like, been getting diagnosed at a higher rate, or more cases have been popping up, I feel like, just from what I'm hearing. I don't have numbers to back that up. I feel like it is something that's really important to talk about, and I want to give it a little time and attention and kind of help spread good information. So with that being said, to even better understand it myself, I Googled, I researched a little bit, and I found kind of what I was expecting to find. That a lot of places only say autism spectrum. They don't want to say autism disorder because of how different each case is. There's a lot of information about what can be expected, with the kind of caveat that obviously this can show up in a lot of different ways and in a lot of different varying degrees. So somebody that's on the autism spectrum could be at either end or somewhere in the middle. There is no way of predicting what they will fall into. And there's also various ways of actually being diagnosed and having it show up and be caught. So there were a lot of different websites that I looked at. There's a definition of it on Mayo Clinic with some of the symptoms. I found a website called autismspeaks.org that I thought would be super helpful in understanding it a little more. So I'm looking at that kind of thing, and I thought I would share their definition or way of explaining what autism even is. So it says autism or autism spectrum disorder refers to a range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication, as well as by unique strengths and differences. We now know that there is not one autism, but many types caused by different combinations of genetic and environmental influences. The term spectrum reflects the wide variation in challenges and strengths possessed by each person with autism. Autism's most obvious signs tend to appear between 2 and 3 years of age. In some cases, it can be diagnosed as early as 18 months. Some developmental delays associated with autism can be identified and addressed even earlier. Autism Speaks urges parents with concerns to seek evaluation without delay, as early intervention can improve outcomes. There is also a note at the bottom that says in 2013, the American Psychological Association merged 4 previously distinct diagnoses into one umbrella diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. That included autistic disorder, childhood disintegrative disorder, pervasive development disorder not otherwise specified, and Asperger's syndrome. So Asperger's and autism are usually used interchangeably, and I don't know a ton about it, but I do believe they are distinct diagnoses and that there is a difference between autism and Asperger's. I am not fully sure what the difference is. So if anybody understands it, leave it in the comments below and we can all learn something new. I know there's a difference even though they're similar. Asperger's is very, very close to autism, but I do believe there's a difference. I'm not sure what the difference is, but I do think there's a difference. However, I thought we could also look at some of the signs of autism. There is a couple lists of different age groups and signs to look out for. For signs of autism in babies and toddlers, it says by 6 months, no social smiles or other warm, joyful expressions directed at people. By 6 months, limited or no eye contact. By 9 months, no sharing of vocal sounds, smiles, or other nonverbal communication. By 12 months, no babbling. By 12 months, no use of gestures to communicate, like pointing or reaching or waving. By 12 months, no response to name when called. By 16 months, no words, so they're not forming words or sentences. By 24 months, no meaningful two-word phrases, and any loss of any previously acquired speech or babbling or social skills. So if they kind of digress back to not being able to speak after having a little bit of speech, that could be a sign of it as well. Possible signs of autism at any age are avoids eye contact and prefers to be alone, struggles with understanding other people's feelings, remains nonverbal or has delayed language development, repeats words or phrases over and over, gets upset by minor changes in routine or surroundings, has highly restricted interests, performs repetitive behaviors such as flapping, rocking, or spinning, and has unusual and often intense reactions to sounds, smells, tastes, textures, lights, and or colors. So that would be sensory sensitivity. These are things that you could look out for. They're of course on their own not an automatic like, oh, they're autistic. Just like anything else, you have to be careful with not jumping to it being autism. But if you notice a significant number of these signs, it could be a sign that you should have them evaluated. Or if you know these things about yourself, you could get evaluated yourself to kind of see, and that could help you understand a lot more about whoever is being evaluated and whoever might possibly have it. I would encourage not to nitpick things, because I feel like just with any other diagnosis or label you're putting on something, you can get so like, oh yeah, I have that one, maybe I have it, and that might not be the case, especially with something that's a spectrum and not a concrete thing that always looks the same. Autism is so varying and can be so unique that it's hard to just jump into, oh yeah, they have those symptoms, it's definitely that. Especially when you're talking developmental delays, there are definitely developmental delays that can happen outside of autism. There are developmental delays that can happen whether or not there's some underlying diagnosis that you could get. And I think that's another thing that is probably the biggest thing to look at with autism, is it's mostly social and developmental delays. Those are the biggest concerns, and thankfully there's a lot of things that can help with those things. They do things like occupational therapy, like speech therapy, and they do things to kind of help relieve those symptoms. So if it's sensory sensitivity, you do things that lower the sensory, that lower that impact. You don't take a child to somewhere that's going to be sensory overwhelming to get them used to it. That would not be helpful. And I have noticed lately that there are places where kids usually go doing days or time of days where there's not as much sensory stuff going on. They do calmer, quieter, so that kids with things like autism or other sensory sensitivity issues can come and feel comfortable and enjoy it as well, which is really awesome to hear, because that can be hard and that gets so frustrating for the parents probably, because they want to take their child and have fun, but they know it would end up ultimately really just stressing their child out, and they don't want to miss out on those memories of being able to allow them to play and explore and experience those things still. So that is something to think about also. You could look up where has those things if your child has autism or sensory sensitivity in general. Again, sensory sensitivity can be something either way that doesn't automatically mean autism, but it is a part of autism if that is a diagnosis. So I hope I shared enough to help you understand a little more. There are certain social and developmental markers, like milestones, that you will notice won't happen. So it can be speech is a big one. Speech delay and trouble speaking is probably one of the most severe signs of autism that happens. There's also the kind of overwhelm that can happen and the sensitivity to social situations that you'll notice, and things like that are major markers to look for. So I hope I did it justice. If I missed anything or misspoke on anything, please put it in the comments below, and I will try to make sure to get that information out there. I never want to spread bad information information. So I hope this helped you understand it a little bit in some way. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it with everybody. And if you are not already subscribed, click the screen and subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!